In God's Womb. Author and lay missionary Edwina Gately speaks of her life experiences in the context of a womb. Whether ministering to women and men on the streets of Chicago or London, teaching children in Africa, encountering the profound silence of a Saharan desert retreat, or facing the challenges of ministry transitions, she consistently said, "I knew I was in God's womb." Throughout this morning's gospel story, Mary's experience was also womb-like. There was a spirit-filled God presence that permeated the messenger, the message, and her response. Today, in this Advent season, I want to focus on the image of a womb, what it means for us to be in that space, and how God holds us in these moments. Perhaps the womb we've all been connected with in some way is our mother's womb, in which we developed and from which we emerged, just as Jesus did in Mary's womb. It was for us a place of growth, stretching, and transformation. Being in that space meant there was no outside light. It was dark and uncertain, yet beautiful and filled with life. It was warm and nourishing. It was also a place of mystery, where we trustingly went along for the ride as we evolved into a baby. The womb of our God is infinitely larger than our mother's womb and includes all our life moments and every piece of creation. With a womb-like love, God envelops us and invites us into growth, transformation, trust, and new life in the midst of struggles and sadness, joy and celebrations. This morning, we will hear two stories that speak to the experience of being in God's womb. I asked Chantel if she would share her story, which has a powerful Advent message. I now turn this time over to you, Chantel.
Thanks so much, Carol, for inviting me to share my womb story. Literally, it's a story of my pregnancy with my middle son, Gabriel John, who was born between my other two sons, Zach and Patrick. I, like many expecting moms, was ecstatic about my pregnancy until my 20-week scan. I learned my unbaby boy had a fatal birth defect called anencephaly, essentially when the fetus has an underdeveloped brain and has an incomplete skull that's exposed. I was stunned, shocked, and felt utterly in despair. I had typical thoughts spinning: why me? Why my baby? What did I do to cause or deserve this? The unfathomable had come true. My baby would not survive, either out of the womb or much past birth. I was encouraged and actually scheduled to have an abortion, even though it was considered risky because of how far along I was in this pregnancy. The next several weeks resulted in a lot of soul searching, consulting, crying, and praying. I did eventually cancel that abortion and decided I was going to move forward with the pregnancy, knowing full well the outcome. Having been pregnant previously, I knew that I couldn't ignore my baby's kicks and wiggles, and knew full well that he was still alive, at least for the time being. I knew I had to be with him till the end. The next several months were the loneliest of my life. No one knew what I had gone through or what I was really experiencing. I had plenty of people judge me to my face in private, and amidst all this pain, where was God? I do know I was gifted with the support of my people, my tribe, my husband, my brother, my parents, my doctor, therapist, and a few select friends who allowed me to move through my days or take my mind off my current circumstances. Keep in mind, I also had to take care of 2-year-old Zachary, so I had plenty to do in addition to working part-time. My advent of waiting filled me with mixed emotions. On some days, I was completely impatient, and other days, I never wanted it to end. My advent did not involve typical pregnancy milestones like ultrasounds or picking out baby clothes. I had to do the tough things like involving a lot of different scenarios, birth planning, death planning, funeral planning. We decided to name our baby Gabriel after the angel, with the middle name of John after my husband. How did I get through these times? I prayed. I actually developed a devotion to Mary simply because she had also known her son was going to die. I honestly was never a big fan of repetitive prayer, but the rosary helped pass the time, provided something constant, and ultimately calmed me through these many months. His birthday was one of angst and joy. Gabriel John was born alive on January 11th, 2007, and he lived for 2 more days. Those days were the happiest of my life, honestly. We were able to hold him all day and night, talk to him, and even feed him. I have vivid images of him holding our finger with an incredible grip and strength. We had a stream of family and friends who wanted to meet him and share a brief moment with an angel. Though the world would say he was deformed and not valued, he was certainly perfect to us in those precious few days. Reflecting back, there were many fruits and nuggets of wisdom that would emerge following Gabe's death and still occur to this day. I went on to work in the bereavement ministry at St. Francis of Assisi alongside our esteemed Carol Johnson and Mary Lefevre, and I would continue that work for almost the next 10 years. I'm also involved in several online support groups and a national group for mothers of babies born with fatal birth defects. Gabe's brief life influenced many others, including his brother, Zach, who would go on to choose Gabriel as his confirmation name. Gabe's 14th birthday is coming up on January 11th, and we'll celebrate with cake in our little family as we usually do. His life reminds me to give of my full presence to others, especially when they're going through incredibly difficult times, even when I don't know what to say or how to act. His life reminds me that everyone matters. Everyone is important. Everyone has a story, no matter how long they were with us. His life reminds me to place all my trust in God, who really does have a divine plan. His life reminds me of my advent of waiting, then and now, until we meet again.
Chantel, thank you so much for sharing your powerful, heart-touching story. As the second example, I want to share with you part of my call to priesthood in the context of a womb. Although I didn't realize it at that time, for years God had been preparing me to answer the call to ordained ministry. It truly was a long birthing process. Its beginnings date back to the 1980s, when I felt the Spirit of God set my heart ablaze during the Christian Unity Week ritual, involvement in a charismatic prayer group, and a regular practice of contemplative prayer. I had been pursuing an MBA, but this awakening brought me to switch tracks and move into theological studies. It was a mystery to me. I had no idea where this was leading. I just knew I had to take this path and follow where it would lead. I was being stretched and transformed mightily in the womb of God. In 1994, I began a 15-year journey as a member of the pastoral staff at a local Catholic parish. Throughout these years, I felt God holding me in her womb as she grew and guided me through the many joys, challenges, and life-changing experiences of pastoral ministry. Much of this time was life-giving. However, during the latter years, I struggled deeply with more restrictive practices and a growing oppressive gender discrimination. It finally got to the point where I knew I had to leave what had been a nourishing, comfortable womb at St. Francis Church, step into the abyss, and trust that somehow God would show me the way. In completely letting go, it soon became clear that I needed to discern a call to priesthood. During this time of uncertainty, I would often pray, God, please don't leave me now. God answered that prayer through you. I felt held by you in the womb of our Mary Magdalene community. Your love and care made it possible for me to step into the unknown and live into the call of my heart. This was true not only at the time of ordination, but throughout the past 9.5 years, as we have stretched and journeyed together, sharing our growth, doubts, tears, and triumphs. Thank you for embodying God's enveloping, womb-like love to me and to so many others through your presence and your actions. Whether we are experiencing deep, agonizing heartache, as Chantel was, discerning a significant life change, or stepping into the unknown in some other way, God is always holding us in her womb. As the days of Advent draw to a close, I invite us now in this moment to close our eyes and be still. Imagine God holding you in the womb space of your home and of our loving faith community that is gathered. Whatever life situation you're presently in, allow God to embrace you with a womb-like love. When you're ready. May you feel the blessing of a long, loving Advent embrace.